In a quiet corner of the city, where the streets were dusty and the houses were small, lived a young woman named Elara. She didn't have much. Her home was tiny, smelling faintly of old wood and yesterday's simple cooking. But Elara carried something inside her that was vast and bright, a dream. She didn't just dream of a better life. She dreamt of the spotlight. She dreamt of dazzling stages, music that made hearts soar, and lights so bright they chased away all the shadows of her humble past. Elara wanted to be a star, not just famous, but a legend. Every night, she would stand on her small, worn rug, pretending it was the center of a giant stage. She'd sing, her voice powerful and clear, reaching far beyond the thin walls of her house. Her audience was the moon, the rustling leaves outside, and sometimes, a very sleepy cat who seemed to appreciate the show. But dreams, Elara knew, needed more than just talent. They needed ladders. And the ladder from her dusty corner to the sparkling stage was too tall to climb alone. Her family was loving, but they were poor. They couldn't afford the singing lessons, the expensive clothes, or the trips to audition at the big city studios. Elara, her mother would often sigh, running a hand over Elara's bright hair. Your voice is gold, but gold needs to be dug out of the earth. We just don't have the shovels, dear one. Elara didn't argue. She knew her mother was right. She tried working several simple jobs, washing dishes, cleaning offices, running errands. But the money was barely enough to help with rent, let alone fund a career that required thousands of dollars in investment. She watched other, less talented people succeed because their parents knew the right people or had the money to pay for endless promotion. This fueled a new fire inside her. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day, Elara sat staring at a glamorous magazine someone had left on the bus. On the cover was a famous singer, surrounded by powerful, important-looking people, managers, investors, and CEOs. It wasn't just her talent that got her there, Elara realized. It was her circle. She had surrounded herself with people who could open the heavy, locked doors of the music industry. A new kind of determination settled in Elara's heart, hard and cold like a jewel. She realized she needed a different kind of shovel. She needed to use her sharp mind, her quick learning ability, and her striking presence to get close to the people who held the keys. She wasn't just going to wait to be discovered. She was going to be chosen. It wasn't easy. The social events of the elite were miles away from her tiny house, in towering buildings with security guards and velvet ropes. Elara had to be smart and methodical. She started by finding ways to enter their world without a proper invitation. She volunteered at major charity galas, offering to help with coat checks or seating arrangements. This allowed her to be in the room, observe, and learn the rules of this new world. She saved every spare penny, skipping meals sometimes, to buy one perfect, simple dress that she could make look expensive with careful tailoring and a winning smile. Elara's true work was her observation. She learned that the wealthy didn't talk about money, they talked about causes. They didn't talk about ambition, they talked about legacy. She adopted this language. She began targeting minor players first. There was Mr. Simon, a middle-aged art dealer who hated small talk but loved discussing rare books. Elara read late into the night, memorizing details about literature, just so she could have a 2-minute, intelligent conversation with him. Her reward? He introduced her to his neighbor, who was a minor investor in a small theater company. She made a point of never asking for anything directly. She only asked for guidance or an opportunity to learn. It was a delicate, draining dance. She felt like an actress constantly on stage, worried that her low-cost shoes or her slightly faded dress might give away her true identity. This performance went against her open, honest nature, and the strain sometimes made her feel hollow. "Why are you here, Elara?" A cruel, wealthy young woman once whispered to her at a garden party, looking down her nose. "You don't look like you belong." Elara didn't flinch. She simply met the woman's gaze and said, with a quiet strength, "I'm here because I am looking for the path to where I do belong. It's hard work, but I'm not afraid of it." The woman was silenced. Elara focused her energy on a few key individuals who could truly open doors. There was Mr. Vance, the retired music executive, and Mrs. Sterling, the Arts Foundation head. She spent months cultivating these connections, listening patiently to their advice and gently steering conversations toward the challenges facing young, independent artists. Her goal remained pure, the stage. But the road she chose was made of polite smiles and strategic handshakes. It was a difficult role, always being on, always calculating her next move, but the thought of the shimmering, roaring spotlight she needed kept her going. She told herself, "This is just the rehearsal. The real show hasn't started yet. I will pay this price now for the music I can create later." Elara's intense, focused presence began to cut through the noise of high society. She was an anomaly, a beautiful young woman who wasn't chasing a man, but an opportunity. This is precisely what drew the attention of Elias Thorne. Elias came from a lineage of immense wealth. The Thorne family name meant power, but for Elias it meant constraint. He was intelligent and driven, but his passion was not in finance or luxury. It was in sustainable energy and ecological innovation. He wanted to build solar farms and develop clean water systems. He felt trapped by his name and his expectations. His 30th birthday was weeks away, and the ancient Thorne family trust had a ruthless rule. The main inheritance, the presidency of the multi-billion-dollar holding company, could only be transferred to a married man. The pressure from the family council, led by his stern, traditional father, Mr. Robert Thorne, was relentless. Elias, his father had growled during their last tense meeting in a dark wood-paneled office. "Cousin Arthur is waiting in the wings. He is married, stable, and ready to assume control. If you cannot produce a suitable wife and secure the future of the company by the deadline, the inheritance passes to him. That is the tradition. You will be relegated to the smaller trusts, a minor footnote." Elias did not fear being poor. He feared being useless. Without the company's vast resources, his environmental projects would take decades to get off the ground. He needed the power to do good. He had tried dating society women, but they all came with complex emotional demands and clear desires for his status. He needed a partner for a transaction, not a relationship. And then he saw Elara. He first noticed her at a massive fundraiser. He observed her precise movements, how she moved away from groups, not toward them, how she always chose to stand near people of influence, how her eyes, though polite, held a calculating focus. He watched her approach Mr. Vance, the retired executive. She didn't flatter Vance. She engaged him on a technical point about music production history, making Vance light up with genuine interest. She is perfect, Elias thought, watching her give a small, polite nod before moving with quiet grace. She doesn't want my heart. She wants my resources. Her ambition is her loyalty. She won't distract me. Elias saw a contract, not a covenant. He saw someone who would respect boundaries because her focus was entirely elsewhere. He needed a wife for 2 years, and Elara needed the ultimate launchpad. Their needs were mirror images of each other. Elias made his decision. He would bypass the entire tedious process of courtship and go straight to the proposal. The next time Elara saw Elias Thorne, it was no accident. He intercepted her at a quiet, late-night gallery opening. "Elara, isn't it?" he asked, his voice calm and deep, a quiet force in the loud room. Elara's internal alarm bells rang, but her face remained serene. "That's right, Mr. Thorne. It's an honor. Please call me Elias. I've observed you, Elara. You have a remarkable sense of purpose. I believe we both share a need for an advantageous partnership." Elara met his gaze, her heart beating a little faster. This was the moment she had been working toward, but it was coming from the most powerful man in the city. She didn't panic. "I know what I want, Elias. That's all. And what is it truly? I want to sing. I want the world stage. And I refuse to wait 20 years to earn the funding and connections that others are born with." Elias smiled, genuinely impressed by her frankness. "And I want to secure the Thorne Company to pursue my own passion, sustainable energy. To do that, I must be married before my 30th birthday. It's an antiquated but immovable family rule." He leaned closer, making the conversation a confidential whisper. "I need a wife who is intelligent, independent, discreet, and ambitious. Someone whose goal is so powerful that they will never look to me for emotional support or interference, allowing me to focus entirely on my work." "You fit that description perfectly, Elara." "What exactly are you proposing, Elias?" she asked, her voice steady. "A business arrangement, Elara. A marriage of convenience, structured with the precision of a corporate merger. You become Mrs. Thorne for 2 years. This secures my inheritance and my position." He detailed the exchange with corporate clarity. "In return, you get immediate access to every resource the Thorne name can provide. The best vocal coaches globally, a top-tier studio contract, a world-class publicist, and every essential introduction in the music industry. You will have the ultimate platform and unlimited funding for your career launch. We will maintain separate living spaces and public respect, but no physical or romantic expectations. Our arrangement will be known only to us. After 2 years, once my position is secured, we will announce an amicable separation, and you will walk away with your established career, your full independence, and a non-negotiable financial settlement of $50 million. Elara didn't blink. $50 million was a lifetime of security, but the launchpad was the true prize. She had sacrificed dignity and comfort for months. This felt like a fair payment. The 2 years are non-negotiable? Elara confirmed. Non-negotiable. It is the minimum time needed to cement the leadership change. Elara took a moment, visualizing her tiny house, her dreams, and the sacrifice of 2 years of her life. She nodded. You're right, Elias. My ambition is too big for my current resources. And your family is too powerful to ignore. This isn't a marriage, it's a partnership of mutual goals. She offered him her hand across the space between them. I accept your proposition. I will be your wife, and I will be the star I was meant to be. I expect your full support in making my dream happen, and I promise you absolute discretion and professional commitment to the role of Mrs. Thorne. Elias shook her hand firmly. Done, Elara. We are partners. The engagement announcement sent shockwaves through the city. Elias Thorne, the notoriously private heir, was marrying the little-known Elara. The Thorne family council was satisfied, seeing Elara's polished, quiet ambition as a sign of discipline. Precisely what they valued. Elias's father, though suspicious of the speed, could not argue with the fact that Elias was finally fulfilling the ancient rule. The first few months were a masterclass in controlled public relations, orchestrated by the formidable publicist Serena. The key is mystique, Elara, Serena instructed. They know you're ambitious. We will brand that as artistic drive. We will hint that Elias discovered you performing in a small, private charity event, a diamond in the rough he decided to sponsor. You are not a socialite. You are the mysterious muse who prefers the studio to the ballroom. Elara committed to the role completely. Her new life was a whirl of fittings, lessons, and public appearances designed to shape her image. She endured endless interviews where reporters tried to dig up her past. Mrs. Thorne, what does it feel like to marry into such wealth? A reporter once asked with a smirk. Elara smiled graciously. Wealth is irrelevant. I married Elias because of the integrity of his vision for the future, and he, in turn, believes in the integrity of my music. We share a commitment to using our platforms for meaningful purpose. Her answer was technically true, professional, and gave the publicist exactly the soundbite she needed. Elias played his role perfectly, too. He treated Elara with high respect and quiet affection in public, always offering a hand or a warm glance. In private, the mansion was a fortress of silence and work. They shared the occasional meal, discussing their day with the detachment of business partners. Elara would detail her progress in the studio and her new vocal training regimen. Elias would talk about the regulatory hurdles for his solar projects. They offered each other practical advice. Mr. Vance mentioned that the new producer, and Mr. Kai, requires a strong initial concept, Elara noted one evening over dinner. He says Kai is distracted by too many projects. Elias immediately understood. You need to present a finished product, not a promise. Use the studio time efficiently. I will ensure Kai receives a preliminary transfer from the Thorne Foundation for the demo project to show him we are serious. That will secure his focus. This was the strength of their pact. They used their combined intelligence to solve each other's problems, creating a formidable shield against the prying world. The wedding day arrived, an extravagant affair designed to satisfy the Thorne family's need for spectacle. Elara, in her magnificent gown, felt oddly calm. This wasn't her fairy tale, it was her contract signing. She spoke the vows with conviction, not of love, but of loyalty to the shared goal. As the ring slid onto her finger, she thought, now the investment period begins. The first year was dedicated entirely to the launch of Elara's career. The investment was massive, but Elara's dedication was even greater. She spent 6 days a week in the studio, working with producer Kai, who was initially skeptical but quickly became a believer in her raw, powerful voice. Her music was unique. It wasn't light pop, it was soulful, complex, and filled with the emotion of overcoming adversity. Her debut album, Ascension, was a reflection of her own journey. The lead single, The Shovel and the Jewel, was a huge success. People were drawn to the power and authenticity in her voice, which contrasted sharply with her glamorous, untouchable image as Mrs. Thorne. The challenges were intense. The music world demanded constant appearances, grueling travel, and the relentless pressure to remain perfect. Elara had to manage media crises, like the time a former school acquaintance tried to sell a false, dramatic story about her past. Elias's team shut it down instantly. "Discretion is part of the contract, Elara," Elias reminded her, his expression neutral. "We protect the Thorne name, and in doing so, we protect your career. Any attack on your credibility is an attack on the stability of my position." Elara understood. "I know. I appreciate the shield, Elias. It allows me to focus on the stage, which is the only place my story should be told." Their partnership deepened into a kind of professional friendship based on extreme respect. Elias never questioned her late-night studio sessions or her travel schedule. He only asked for status reports on her success and ensured the company records reflected her artistic activities as Thorne Foundation-funded art initiatives. Meanwhile, Elias was facing his own battles. Cousin Arthur and his faction tried every trick to destabilize Elias's control, arguing that Elara was not a proper wife and that the marriage was a sham. "You look like you are being drained by the council," Elara observed one afternoon, finding Elias looking tired in his study. "It's a constant battle for control," Elias admitted, rubbing his temples. "Arthur is pushing for a hostile takeover of the energy division. I need more time to solidify my voting power." Elara felt a genuine desire to help him. He was the quiet foundation of her success. "Can I help in any way? Publicly, I mean. Would a joint appearance at a high-profile arts fundraiser linked to one of your clean water initiatives help show stability?" Elias looked surprised, then smiled. "It would be perfect. It shows a united front, focusing on legacy and purpose, which is exactly the image my father demands." "You are a brilliant strategic partner, Elara." They did the event, looking every inch the power couple. Elara speaking passionately about the emotional resonance of art, and Elias speaking with quiet conviction about ecological responsibility. The show of unity worked. The family council backed down, seeing the two of them as a formidable, if unusual, team. 2 years flew by in a blur of recording sessions, sold-out arenas, and boardroom meetings. Elara Thorne was no longer Mrs. Thorne, the socialite. She was Elara, the global music sensation. She had 2 #1 albums, a world tour scheduled, and the respect of the entire music industry. Her dream was real, solid, and entirely her own. Elias had also succeeded. He had successfully taken control of the Thorne holding company, not just securing his inheritance, but strategically reshaping the company's focus. The green energy division was now the fastest-growing part of the entire operation, securing his position far beyond the 2-year deadline. The end of their contract approached. Elara was preparing for a concert in her hometown, a massive stadium event, just a few miles from the tiny house where she used to sing to the cat. Elias joined her on the plane for the trip, their first extended time together that wasn't strictly necessary for a public event. "I've finalized the separation documents," Elias said, handing her a slim folder. "The divorce is amicable, citing irreconcilable professional schedules. It will be quiet, respectful, and will not impact your public image. The financial transfer is complete." Elara opened the folder. Everything was exactly as agreed, clean, and without complexity. "You didn't have to come with me for this, Elias," Elara said, looking out the window at the city lights below. "I know," he replied simply, "but I wanted to be here. Not for the public, but for the conclusion of our successful venture. I wanted to see the stage you earned with my own eyes." Elara smiled, a genuine, warm smile for the man who had been her partner. "You know, Elias, when I first planned to climb this ladder, I expected to feel guilty or empty when I reached the top. I thought I would despise the networking and the calculated smiles. And do you? No, because every smile, every polite conversation, every photo, it all led to the music. And the music is honest. I used the facade to protect my truth, and you respected that truth entirely. You never asked me to be anything other than ambitious. And you, Elara, helped me find my own conviction," Elias said. "You taught me that ambition is only powerful when it serves a genuine purpose. You gave me the stability I needed to fight for my green vision." They landed in the city. The next evening, Elara stepped onto the stage of her sold-out stadium concert. The lights were blinding, the energy of the crowd electric. She looked out at the sea of faces, and in a private box near the front, she saw Elias. He was standing alone, not waving, just watching with a look of immense satisfaction. She started her opening number. It was her signature song, The Shovel and the Jewel, a hymn to sacrifice and success. As the music soared, Elara closed her eyes and saw her past, the tiny house, the weary jobs, the uncomfortable high society parties. She had entered a golden cage, yes, but she hadn't let the gold distract her. She had used the bars of the cage as a ladder, and now she was flying free. Back at the mansion the next day, Elara gathered the last of her personal items from her separate wing. She hugged Elias goodbye, a professional, respectful hug. "Go shine, Elara," he said. "Go, change the world, Elias," she replied. Elara walked out the door of the Thorne mansion, not with regret, but with triumph. The pact was sealed, the 2 years were up, and the star was born, secured by a contract built on pure, unadulterated ambition. She had traded 2 years of her life for a lifetime of her dreams, and she wouldn't change a thing. She was ready for her next stage.